For centuries, we've known dogs as man's best friend. As domestic animals, we understand their habits. They wag their tails when they're happy, and they thrive in packs. That's why they want to be around your family all the time when you have one. They're fiercely protective as well of their own. And let's be honest, they also love humping literally everything. Literally everything. Now, scientifically, that behavior is normally dominance or a way of them expressing themselves, or maybe they aren't here. Not depravity. But here in 2029, apparently we've discovered an entirely new way to describe these age-old habits of dogs. You might think I'm hinting at BDSM, remember that thing? But I'm not. Let me explain. Actually, I won't. I'll let this clip explain that for you.
Hi!
Can you tell me about your dog?
This is Honey. He is a gay, gender-fluid, golden retriever Afghan hound mix.
Yes! How did you know that he was gay?
We have another dog named Charlie. He's about 7 years older than Honey, and they are completely inseparable.
Yes, you heard that right. The dog is a gay, gender-fluid, golden retriever Afghan hound mix. Really? Do you not hear the insanity? Like, anything with an Afghan in its DNA is sitting around wondering if it's gay? Homie, please. As if like that Afghan hound parent would literally pick the pup's bone out of its teeth before it ever questioned if it was gender fluid. So what scientific genius came up exactly with that conclusion? Because the dog humps everything, like all dogs do. So its dog behavior is now some kind of, I don't know, exploration of its gender fluidity. It's behaving like a dog, like dogs always have. Can somebody explain this madness to me? What depravity exactly leads people to think that injecting this nonsense into an animal is a normal thing? Exactly. Honestly, it shouldn't surprise me. It's the same ideology that is being pushed into children. If you're watching this and you're part of the LGBTQIA plus XY, sorry, I don't think those letters are included, but that's how it comes across. Community, if you're part of that community, the LGBTQ, I don't know why I'm repeating it, I'm sorry. Let me be clear. I'm not trying to attack you, at least not this time, but I am asking, and I would like to get some answers maybe, please. Is this what you align with? Like, is this absurdity part of your values? Or is this the kind of insanity that you also wish to distance yourself from? Because if this is what you stand for, then good luck. But maybe it's time to go see a psychiatrist. Perhaps Dr. Jillian can help? Maybe? Yeah. Look, it might sound like I'm being insulting, but the truth is you'll make it way too easy for me to do that. And you do a fine job at it yourself. I don't even need to try and insult you. But here you have it. We now have some Afghan hound, gender fluid, gay dogs in our midst. Anyway, let's get into the episode for today. I'm Emeka Edwin-Nweze and this is Emeka Unscripted. Uneducated morons, aka idiots. Remember in 2022 when they made Bill Shorten the Minister of NDIS? Like for the second time? Sounds like a great idea, right? Like the best decision the government could have made at the time. Well, after all, he was the one, he was there when the NDIS was born. He even calls himself the father of NDIS, or at least that's what he used to call himself. But here is the problem. When the so-called father of the scheme leaves behind chaos, debt, delays, families that are in despair, maybe the last person that you want to be in charge of fixing the scheme is the one who designed it in the first place to fail. Because you can't ask an arsonist to be the fire chief. Yes, you just can't. Seems like common sense, but apparently we have to tell our government this. And yet, this is Canberra's way. They don't choose the right person for the job. They choose the right person for their politics. It's not actually about serving the country. It's about serving the narrative and keeping the illusion alive, even when the reality is actually just collapsing. So instead of appointing someone with fresh eyes and real-world expertise, they recycle the same name, the same mistake, the same ideology, dressed up in leadership, which clearly it isn't, because the damn thing was failing and it still is failing. Yeah, that's how we ended up with Bill Shorten, back at the wheel of the very scheme that he crashed the first time. And yes, he's no longer in that seat, but we shouldn't sweep it under the rug, because the same story keeps replaying itself even today. And to be realistic with you, that's why we have to go through this again. So I'm sorry if it feels like I'm rehashing the same NDIS story, but some things are worth repeating because they define how we get to go from here. Because if nothing changes, we are absolutely bound to continue to repeat the same mistake over and over again. So let's talk about Bill Shorten for a second. Bill Shorten first entered into the disability sector, or he was given the disability portfolio back in 2007 under the Kevin Rudd Labor government. Remember that? Or maybe you don't, so follow me for a sec. His title was Parliamentary Secretary for Disability and Children's Services. Now that's where the story of the NDIS really begins, because now let's be clear, Shorten, Mr. Honourable, horrible, don't know what you want to call him, wasn't a disability expert in any way. He wasn't a health reformer. He had no real qualifications in the space. He wasn't even an economist. Something on his resume that said this guy will remotely know what he's doing. He was a union lawyer turned political deal maker. Yep. But he was ambitious, and he knew a big idea could really build his career and change everything for him. So what did he do? He pitched the NDIS to the powers that be, to his colleagues in the space, in that round space that they hang out to make decisions on our behalf, but continue to fail. We call it the Parliament House. It was sold, or rather he sold the NDIS whole map, the plan for it, as a bold, compassionate reform that would transform the lives of everyone that required services with a disability. And in 2013, Labor legislated it into existence. Shorten effectively built his political reputation as the father of the NDIS with this awesome thing that he pitched. Now, I'm not going to go into that because there is an episode where I've actually gone into this. So do come with me. I'm not repeating everything I've said before. I'm trying to paint a picture here for you. Let's fast forward, okay? Because the NDIS ballooned in cost. I've already described that. The fraud crept in. Families waited for months for approval. Providers collapsed under the late payments, as I mentioned before. And the underpricing of services, well, continues still today. And instead of fixing it the second time around when he was elected, Shorten just absolutely moved on. Yeah. He climbed the ladder of his political leadership, built his reputation on the idea of the NDIS, not the execution, not at all. By the way, like they literally, like all of them do, none of them actually build their reputation on the execution of anything that they promised during the election term. They just build the ideas, sell it to the public, make it sound really good, cut some ribbons and show up for some photo op opportunities that make it sound really good. And then if it fails, they will just walk away with literally zero consequences. And by the way, I'd like to introduce the idea that maybe our politicians need to have a KPI when they go into office, and we do need to be able to hold them accountable against their KPI, like any organization would. See, when I lead an organization, and I have people that are working with me, I give them very, very clear targets. In this case, we actually let the politicians decide what their clear targets should look like, right? We all know what they should do, but we let them convince us that they're going to do something about all the things that we have issues with. Except when they don't, which they inevitably don't, almost always don't, there's nothing holding them accountable. That's why the system is failing. Here's an example of one of them. So instead of building a scheme on transparency and sustainability, he built the scheme on spin and survival. Accusations, blame game all day long. It's like freaking cutting a ribbon to a shiny new house and then walking away with a smile, looking at the cameras and pretending you don't freaking hear the roof cracking behind you. What the hell, man? You built crap. Okay, that's right. Honorable Shorten, he goes on, without no accountability. No reflection, no intervention, just reinvented himself and went on to be the dean of some university in Canberra. Allegedly the one he went to. Well, you can probably look that up. He probably did go to uni. There's no reason to kind of question his education in this segment. But who knows? Because he built something that was absolutely crap. Okay, now this happened in 2022 when he was put back in the same position by Albanese, right? The same position. The arsonist who was then made the fire chief. Proven arsonist because he created nonsense before. Yeah. Again, think about that for a second. The man who designed the broken system is now trusted to fix it. That's not reform. That's just called recycling. Recycling rubbish. Because it serves the politics, not the people. And really, that's where I'm actually coming from with this. Because this is the narrative that we continue to see replay itself over and over again. But ideologies don't pay providers. They don't stop fraud. It doesn't fix families suffering. It just creates more problem and then completely erodes the trust of the people that voted you in. So here is the thing. I painted that whole narrative about Bill Shorten and how he made his way back to the same place to try and fix the problem that he created for the second time, created even more problems, and then when he realized that it's really, really, really bad, he just exits. Side stage left, because that's the Canberra way. I told that old story, not to try and repeat myself about the whole NDIS story, because you can go watch an entire episode on that. But because it is literally happening again under your nose and you don't even notice. And the reason it's happening again is because you never said anything the first time. You never even seemed to care the first time. You just went with it. And so, of course, it's going to repeat itself over and over again until you learn your lesson. And you wonder what I'm talking about? It's pretty easy. Let's talk about Kevin Rudd for a second. The man who gave Shorten his start in 2007. Oh, right, that makes sense. It absolutely makes sense that okay, let me tell you what's happening right now. The man who perfected the art of bad appointments. Yeah, that guy, the one who appointed Shorten, who had zero ideas or qualification about how to do this. And where's he now? Have you ever wondered? Have you Googled his name lately? Have you searched for him anywhere? It's okay, I'll tell you, you're here. He's representing Australia as our ambassador to the United States. That's right. There are 43 qualified people who could have filled his role. Career diplomats, senior defense officials, seasoned foreign ministers, some of whom have even donated to the Trump campaign, who have been somewhat a credible part of the American history or journey. But who does Albo select for the gig? Kevin Rudd. What the heck, man? Dude, why? Okay, let's not sugarcoat this, because you might not understand why this is a bad thing. Kevin Rudd is not known for his stability. He's not known for unity or diplomacy. Do you remember what his term was like? I'll tell you what he's remembered for. He's remembered for fractional warfare that tore the Labour Party apart. Dysfunction. Chaotic decision-making that burned out public servants. He's remembered for stimulus panic. Well, he called it stimulus package. Remember that era? I call it stimulus panic. He appointed loyalists over competent people. leading one of the most dysfunctional governments in modern Australia's history. You think I'm joking? Go look that up too. Actually, thinking about it, Albo's doing exactly the same thing. Albo, sir, Honourable, horrible Mr. Prime Minister Albanese, sir, you are doing the exact same. Did you just take it out of Kevin Rudd's playbook? Is that actually, maybe you're kind of worse? Somehow? It's like the same arrogance, the same delusion, the same obsession with being Canberra's top dog without actually doing the job. You, sir, are an absolute disgrace to the nation and the people you serve. And we're saying it. And we're seeing it. Okay, let's go back to Kevin Rudd for a minute. So, does it sound like the resume of a man that you should send to Washington? You know, everything I just listed before, the insanity that he brought, the dysfunction that he used to lead a nation. Does he really sound like somebody that should be representing Australia in Washington, D.C., representing our national interest to Donald Trump? Of all the qualified people who could have been appointed for Canberra to represent us, you choose the man who is best known for division, dysfunction, and vanity projects. Yeah, I'm calling it for what it is. And here's where it gets worse. Because when Kevin Rudd was the Prime Minister, he publicly called Donald Trump a betrayer of the West, the worst leader that the West has ever seen, or something of the sort. Worst leader in history. That's not how you start a friendship, mate.
Climate change, or even things the ambassador said about you in the past, the Australian ambassador?
I don't know anything about him. I mean, if he said bad, then maybe he'll like to apologize. I really don't know. Did an ambassador say something bad about me? Don't tell me. I don't know. Where is he? Is he still working for you?
Yeah.
You said bad?
Before I took this position, Mr. President.
I don't like you either. I don't, and I probably never will. Go ahead.
Trump hasn't forgotten. He literally sees Kevin Rudd as everything he despised. Globalist, performative, painfully woke. So not only has Rudd insulted the president, who is now in the position for the second time, he sits on the complete opposite side of the leadership spectrum. Yeah, because Trump is like super far right. Well, probably doesn't call himself that, but I think we can all tell he's not woke. He's conservative and right, far more that way, versus Rudd, who's representing us, and his compadre, Mr. Albanese, who, well, also woke and will happily meet with leaders that are well known for their wokeism and be very proud of it. And that's who he decides to send to America to build the bridge with the most powerful nation on earth. Okay, maybe they're not the most powerful anymore. Didn't say that. Americans don't come for me. Maybe you still have some kind of power, but the reality is, how can you send, it's like common sense. You don't send someone to mend a fence with the man whose dog you just kicked. You just don't. You can't kick his dog and then a few years later, just go, actually, I haven't changed anything about my attitude. I haven't changed anything about who I am and how I turn up in our world. I'm still going to kick your dog again if you piss me off. Actually, you don't even need to piss me off. I just need to disagree with you. I'll kick it again, but hey, let's shake hands and make friends. Sounds legit, right? 9 months ago, Trump returned to office, approximately 9 months ago, maybe 10 at this point. And he met nearly every major world leader between then and now. He has met them. Most of them. Pretty much all of them. Well, except ours. No meeting, no progress, no real relationship. Well, I've been told that they're about to meet, so we'll see how that goes. But here's the thing. Why hasn't that meeting occurred yet? Pretty simple. Because the man, the one who is representing us, Trump, refuses to deal with. Make sense? Because that's the guy who called him the worst leader, a betrayer of Western civilization. I'm not making this up. This is not in news. You can literally just look it up. I say that a lot, by the way, because I really do want you to believe that you need to go from just being educated, gaining the knowledge, to truly enlightening yourself, which means getting to know and understand things for yourself. So let's go back to Bill Shorten for a minute. Back in charge of the NDIS that he broke, Kevin Rudd, representing us to the president who won't even take his calls. 2 men, 2 platforms, 1 pun. That's what they do. You remember the time that Albanese he was being asked these questions. I think it was one of the kind of media time. They're having a debate or something. And he said that he doesn't think that Donald Trump has a phone, a mobile number, except Donald Trump literally always talks about the fact that he's always calling other presidents. I feel like if you're running a major country like Australia, you should literally be texting the leader of another country at all hours of the day. Hey mate, what's going on? So you make that decision. Not sure if it's good. How can we help? That's what I would be doing if I was a leader. It's actually not that bad. It's really not that complicated. That's how that's how basic leadership should work across nations. We you know what? Canberra and all of these work folk, they try to make this stuff seem like it's super complicated, but it just isn't. Canberra doesn't actually reward results, if you haven't noticed. It rewards loyalty. It doesn't appoint what is best for the nation or the people that it serves. It appoints what is the most connected to the ideology. And that's why this nation keeps spinning its wheels to nowhere. Australians' relationship with the United States isn't just symbolic. If you missed that point, it really isn't. It is strategic. Our defense, our trade, our global standing all hinges on that alliance. And right now, that relationship is suffering. It's basically non-existent because we've sent the wrong man to represent us. We can't afford for pride and politics to sabotage the partnership that safeguards our future, that supports how we live. Remember the whole dollar thing? And that's just one small piece or out of everything that needs to actually be functioning properly. Bill Shorten was the wrong man to design the NDIS. Why? Because he was simply unqualified for the job. And the wrong man to fix it. We've proven that now. Kevin Rudd is absolutely the wrong man to be representing Australia to the United States. And Anthony Albanese, well, we're now seeing he's absolutely the wrong Prime Minister to keep enabling both. But here's the good news. We don't need to wait for them to act. We can act. Because when leadership fails its citizens, its constituents, we can simply stand and say enough. So starting today, if you go to edwin-nweze.com/petition, you will find the petition in there that says we need to have a vote of no confidence of the Prime Minister that we currently have. Because he's no good. He's not serving us. He's serving the interest of himself and his friends in high places who continue to screw us over. You need to go on there and start there. There's many things that can be done, but we cannot let these incompetence continue to flow. And we call it leadership because it just isn't. What I'm saying is one step at a time, because where others don't take action or won't take action, we will. Because real leadership doesn't wait for permission, it just acts. And now it's for us to do something about it. If you want a better nation, it starts with calling out the nonsense and demanding accountability. One name, one post, one petition at a time. Kevin Rudd does not speak for us. He can't. He's not even allowed to. Okay? So we do something about it now. Now let's move on to the comment section. All right. You asked for it. I told you I would read the comments and this week, and I'm going to do so now. So particularly, I've chosen to look at the comments on the Charlie Cake video because if you haven't noticed, that one is kind of escalated significantly across the platforms, mostly TikTok. I think there's something like over 5,000 comments there now. So I'm gonna, pick out a few and work out which ones I want to respond to because there's just a lot of nonsense on there. So let's see how we go. So I'm going to look at the comments, particularly on the side of Who Was Charlie Keck, that video on TikTok, because it has quite a lot of comments. I'm not going to bother with the other one because there's just way too much insanity on there, but this one sort of has the point a little bit, so let's kind of go through that. Okay, there's a lot of people without real names, so it's really hard to actually respond to people. So, okay, let's have a look. Hayakal Farah, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but who cares? Charlie Keck was fascist. Do you even know what that means? Like, for real. Like, anyway, racist, merciless bastard who was hiding under the name of the Bible or Christianity. Okay, I'm freaking done. What the? Okay, firstly, you're wrong. You're an idiot. You know the thing I'm seeing that is really consistent? There's a bunch of you that actually don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know the first thing about who he was or what he stood for, and you make a lot of claims that simply are idiotic. And by the way, you're just exposing yourself. I'm not going to bother with that comment. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, he was a political terrorist. Really? I make you puke? Who is it? Matt, whoever you are. I make you puke? Or Charlie makes you puke. So anything that is good and healthy. I suppose gross mac and cheese makes you feel healthy, right? Because it seems to me that you thrive on things that are disgusting and bad for humanity, and anything that is healthy, like an apple a day, keeps the doctors away, is what you thrive on. So, you know, each to their own. Let's finish reading that nonsense that he wrote. He was racist. Mate, firstly, spell wars correctly. It's not W or Z. I don't know why. Like, it's literally 3 letters. Why do you need to shorten it? You can just say W-A-Z. You don't need to change the... It doesn't make you seem more intelligent. Okay, I've seen this rhetoric go around quite a few times, and I just want to say, really, really simple, you are freaking wrong. You are the problem with society. Any person who sits there, you know what? I'm going to play a couple of videos for you guys. I just randomly found these when I was reading these comments, so I thought I'd play them so I can make my point and land it home. Because for me, it's either you're completely ignorant and you haven't been actually following, you just go based on whatever rhetoric you hear on the internet, or you are within yourself a spawn of the devil. The devil has corrupted your mind, and I pray that it is casted out in Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah, I'm blessing you because, my God, let's just go to the video, okay?
Here's the problem, is that you need to put your own citizens first above the citizens of another country, always. And right now, everybody in this audience, they're the first generation since George Washington, have it worse off than their parents. And so I don't care about the rhetoric. I don't even know what you're talking about, to be honest. Instead, I do not have a soft spot for someone that is coming from the third world illegally into our nation when our own generation, these kids here, are the most depressed, suicidal, anxious, poor, and least homeownership generation in history. These kids should come first above foreigners. Does that make sense? Yeah. And again, I'm precise in my
I'll stop that one there because I think that one perfectly addresses the whole racism thing. I keep seeing this idiotic narrative, probably my favorite word, idiotic, because it just so suits what some of you are. This idiotic narrative that he is a racist. How? Because he's patriotic? Because he loves his country? Because he says people can come in, but they don't get to be put above our own national citizens, our own bloody interest? I respect that. And to think, you know, the other one I've heard is when he talks about the missing fathers in the home, which is what is a significant reason why Americans, or the African Americans, really, really struggle with actually maintaining the sanctity of families and all of the evil that and corruption that goes on within there, the violence, the aggression of the young people in African American culture. He talks about and addresses that, and he says the problem here is that there are missing fathers in homes that should be there to train up a child in the way that they should go. A simple biblical reference that he's making, yet some of you sit there and talk absolute nonsense. Now, from the greatest to the smallest, to the non-existing, to the reputable, and to the not reputable, all of you who believe that he's racist, there is seriously something wrong with your skull, and you need to get it checked out. Because what it seems to me is that any person who will truly and righteously stand up for something that is wrong, like the problem African Americans have, it's not racism, is that their fathers missing in the home. Now, don't get me wrong, I've experienced racism, but I can tell you the kind of person I haven't experienced racism from is somebody who will publicly defend his faith and publicly make statements like, I would like us to collectively agree that killing people, even though they are babies, is bad. Yeah. Or will say, I believe that fathers should be in the home. Or will say that parents and their children should not fight, and children should honor their parents because this is what is right. Like, you can see these things all over the video, all over the internet, but yet because he stands for something, what is wrong with you? Look at all the stupid, insane, depraved nonsense you guys put online. What is wrong with you? I don't really know, man. Like, some of the stuff here that I see, I just think, God help your soul. Seriously, God help your soul, because if this is what you guys think, then you guys are, well, it's worse for you than I imagined. I will quickly play one more video just to point out something.
The biggest problem is not racism, it's the lack of dads. If dads are around, kids flourish. And you know who agreed with me? Barack Obama. Barack Obama used to make this a central piece of his campaign. He came to this campus back in 2012, drew like 100,000 person crowd, and talked about how we need to rebuild the black family and put dads back. Why doesn't the Democrat Party talk about that anymore?
I'm fine with having fathers. I'm not against having black dads.
For sure, I'm saying.
I mean, that is a young person who doesn't really know anything about anything systemic racism creates family problems. Well, that's just not true. That's simply not. And I did see this one comment where somebody said something like he lost every comment, every debate in public. You must be insane. That's not true remotely. Here's another one. Sir Heno, also on TikTok, he says, Charlie was an awful human being with horrific views. He was a terrible debater. Wrong. He was just loud and offensive and regressive views. You have no real views. You're just talking nonsense. But anyway, connected with regressive people. Are you talking about Trump? Because he seems to be winning in life. Like, he literally has won more than you'll ever. Okay, let's just stop for a minute. I'm so perplexed. How is it that well, I won't say half the world, because I don't want to believe that half the world is that insane. Some of these people online, the loud-mouthed minorities, they really perplex me. How is it that and I even see Christian preachers and people that identify themselves to be, followers of Christ, who stand publicly and say all this nonsense. Let me tell you something that I believe in, okay? That comes from the Bible. And I'm speaking probably right now to maybe some of those Christian folk who have a rhetoric that he was not a good person. The Bible talks about this thing, right? By their fruit you shall know them. I can put up the reference for you so you can have a look at it, because maybe you haven't read your Bible lately and you don't actually know what it says. By their fruit you shall know them. Let's have a look at Charlie's fruit. And let's just have a look at the fact that he, in the short time that he lived, made such an impact in our world. He influenced the political dynamics for young people in America. He was standing up and debating young people and changing their perspective so that they can open up their eyes and see clearer and better. Look at how many people, as a result of Charlie's ways, the way he moved, the way he held himself, not only turned up to the celebration of his life, to his tribute. That many people were there to worship the creator of the universe, and that is his fruit. And you want to sit there and tell me that he was some kind of bad, awful human being with horrific views and with regressive and offensive. What? How are we seeing different things? How are we hearing different things? Have you guys become so blinded? Okay, so maybe what I'm saying is this. If you feel like you are some kind of, you know what, I will forgive the people who are of the world, who don't know any better. But for Christians who say and publicly announce themselves as followers of Christ, and you see Charlie as anything less than a man who stood up for what is right, and you believe that a person who will literally say to a father and son who came before him arguing and said, listen, mate, do not speak to your father that way, honor your father. If you will say that somebody who would do something like that was evil and perpetrated evil, was a horrific person who was racist, then not only are you wrong, but you should check yourself and check your heart, because you're going nowhere. Like, really. You are so incorrect is not funny. There is something that is missing within you, and you have allowed your heart and your mind to be corrupted by the evil of the day. And I ask you to check yourself, because you are woefully wrong. And if this offends you, that's the point. Because you see, the thing is, Charlie did exactly that. He stood up for what was right. Talk about his political ideologies. Does he associate himself with? I said it before and I'll say it again. The reason why many of you get to sit behind the keyboard and talk all the nonsense that you do is simply because you cannot, in the lifetime that you've existed for, ever be as effective as he was. Yeah, let that sink in. You never have been. You seem to never be able to will ever have the capacity of doing so. So if you want to point at someone who spent their life, who gave their life till their dying breath, making a difference in our world, then that is on you. And you are heading to absolutely nowhere. That again is on you. But I rest my case. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm right, and you're a delusional, depraved degenerate who is heading for nowhere. I'm Emeka Edwin-Nweze, and this is Emeka Unscripted. I'm done.